Okay, I'm gonna share. It's actually gonna be some stuff I've never really shared publicly. I've never had it in me to do this. I might struggle during it. I might not even post this. I have no idea. But I know I've shared a lot about just the struggles of being a mom, a wife, business owner, all of that. And I share a lot of my postpartum depression with you guys. And I don't really hide a lot of stuff, but some stuff, it's just hard to talk about. It's just really, really hard to talk about. And one of the things is that I don't talk about much is marriage and post-military. We all know marriage is hard. Marriage is tough. There's great parts of your marriage. There's harder parts of your marriage. And I mean, it's all about balance, give and take. And it's all like, it's work at the end of the day, which we all know. And I love Zack to death, you guys. That's beside this, but something I don't talk about is post-military. Nobody really tells you, and nobody really can tell you what post-military really looks like for a family. And it has been probably the hardest thing for our marriage is post-military life, meaning like my husband, he was special operations, he deployed home. Yes, the marriage is great when they're only home for a couple weeks and they're gone again, home for a couple weeks and they're gone again. He was on a team. He was on one of the teams, and in the special operations, they're gone all the time, and you know that. And yeah, it sucked. It's like, oh, you miss them, but they're home. Like, but you guys, nobody really prepares you for post-military. Like, you just, I wish I could explain it more. But I've done a lot of thinking and a lot of just trying to figure out how did we get here in this spot. And because we're both struggling with depression, and it's not easy, you guys. It's not easy at all. It's actually really hard to talk about. But when like Zack got out of the military, you guys, he was an officer in the Marine Corps or in the military. He had a lot of really big, important jobs, big, important tasks, timelines. He had no problem, like, what am I thinking of? He would brief the general. He briefed the guys all the time. No problem whatsoever with communication, no problem with any of it. He wrote up missions, he worked, he hustled hard, and he had a purpose. He had a very, very important purpose, and people's lives were on the line if he didn't do his job. So it was just, he knew that he got his work done. And so when he got out of the military, you guys, we moved to Montana, where we thought it was like our dream place to raise our boys. But there was no purpose. I started this little business that was called Tara's Fitness and Nutrition. I was like, okay, I'll coach some friends. I've always coached in a gym. And he started like a little construction company, which it was fun. Like, it was fine for him, but he realized I needed help. And so then he came on and started helping me. But at the end of the day, it wasn't what his passion was. And so, like, so when the guys are on a team, the adrenaline's high. Every day they go to work, there's adrenaline stuff. Like, weekly, they're jumping out of planes, going on dive missions, and that's what training looks like. They're training to be in country or in combat. That's what their job is. So it's not like every day they're going to a desk and typing. A lot of days they are, but they're also adding in those like, it was just like an everyday thing. Hey, I have a jump today, or hey, I have a dive, or hey, I'm going to the pool. Like, that was life. And I didn't think two thoughts about it. It was just like, okay, cool. And then he'd come home. But those are a high adrenaline thing. So picture yourself now in the real world, all that adrenaline. There's no adrenaline to having like a barbecue on the weekend. There's no adrenaline to have like going to the park with your kids on the weekend, or going to birthday parties, or think about what life looks like. And if you've never had the military, like that kind of life, which I know a lot of people haven't, it's hard to envision yourself coming out of that. Even in college, he was like a professional snowboarder. He was sponsored by Red Bull, sponsored by Cliff, like all of his life. So getting out, there's nothing that's going to give him that adrenaline rush that he had and that he loved. And so it's been really hard, you guys. We tried living in Montana. We tried really hard. And I liked it. I liked it a lot. It's when all this kind of started. It's just when I realized that post-military wasn't what I was expecting. Like, your husband's not present. There's no purpose. Those guys that they lost at war or at combat, that they have that heavy burden on themselves. You lose your support, you lose your team, you lose everything when they get out. You lose everything they knew they lost, and they think that they could live without it. And maybe he could have, if I, like, it's really hard, you guys. So we moved to Ohio because Montana just wasn't working out. It was really hard. It was really hard. We were struggling with some stuff that going on in the school system. We were struggling with some of the stuff going on just with law enforcement. It was not good for us. It wasn't good, and it all happened back to back to back, and it was like, this was not where we needed to be. I needed help. I realized really quick that, like, that's when I got diagnosed with postpartum depression, and things just weren't going well. I needed help. I needed somebody. I needed a friend or a family or something. And my best friend was still in North Carolina. My family was still all over the country. And I'm in Montana with now somebody that didn't really want to hang out with us and didn't. So me and the boys did a lot of stuff. But it just wasn't what I was expecting. And I'm not saying anything bad against Zack. I love Zack to death. But it was hard. And now, being in Ohio, like, there's nothing. Like, the adrenaline seeking stuff, like hunting, the big mountains, snowboarding, there's nothing here, but I have family here. So I just never in my life, you guys, pictured post-military being so hard. Like, I wish I could explain. And I think a lot of it has to do with purpose and drive and just feeling, I don't know, appreciated. And I don't, maybe, and I think a lot of it is things that I'm doing, I'm missing the mark on as a wife. But okay, I want to talk on like the therapy side of it, because that's something that I'm a big believer in, to help when you're struggling with something. So I do see a therapist, and that's another thing post-military, or that I noticed in the military. They're not big on the therapy. They tell you they are, on paper they are. You guys, they did that. Like, they got home from a deployment, they had to sit there, through a therapy session with all the guys, just so they didn't go home and like forget that they weren't in combat and they can't There's no like hurting people. They're in real life with their family. So if somebody triggers you, there's no hurting people. Yeah, so they had to do that. They had to check that box. But they were excited to see their families. They were excited to get away from these guys that they were with for the last 6 months or whatever it was. So yeah, they checked the box. But when it comes down to it, it was the biggest sign of weakness, you guys, to sign up to go get help and to talk about your feelings. That's not something they did. They suppressed everything. Think about the stuff you see, you watch movies or you see the stuff in combat. That stuff's not normal. It's not normal. The amount of friends that these guys lose, I know they miss a lot of the funerals. People don't even realize it. When one of your good friends dies and you're still overseas, they don't let you guys all come back and be at your friends. The funeral still happens. So there's a lot that happens that the outside world doesn't really see. And they never really get to talk about these feelings. It's like, yeah, they miss the guy, but it's like, yeah, well, stuff happens. That's part of life. That's what we signed up for. And it's easy to say, but to get help, it's the biggest sign of weakness. So I do see a therapist, and I would love to see a marriage therapist with my husband, and I signed us up. He didn't want to go with me, which is totally fine. I went by myself, and it went amazing. I'm praying that he'll go to the next one, but maybe he won't. It's something that I know I need, because I don't know how to navigate these feelings. I don't know how to navigate any of this. I feel like I want to be a better wife to him, and that will help him. But you guys, I feel like I'm trying to fill his cup from an empty cup, and that's how he feels. He feels like he has an empty cup, and he's hurting, and I'm hurting, and I have an empty cup, and it's not a good environment right now. It's really hard, and I'm only sharing this because I know a lot of people post-military struggle with these same things when it comes to that purpose or the time, or like, it's crazy. I talked to so many friends, and it's like, we thought our husbands were so good with time management and all this stuff, and it's like they were. It's like they get out and time management goes out the window. Everything kind of goes out the window that they worked, but they also don't have that umbrella over their head of like they're not saving lives. They're not gonna jump in the car just to get to this birthday party in time to be there for a 4-year-old's birthday. Time that doesn't matter. Nobody's gonna get hurt if they're not there by 3 o'clock for the birthday party to start. And that's the difference. Nobody is going to get hurt. Nobody's heads are going to fall off. But when they're in the military, there's really bad consequences to not doing things on time, or not doing things right, or spending enough time on it. So that's a big piece of the post-military thing is just talking about the hard things to talk about. And I know, I'll be the first to say, if my husband ever watches this, he'll tell you too, I'm the worst person when it comes to talking and communicating. I shut down when I feel like it shuts me down so bad. And I wish it didn't. Like I don't, it just hurt. When I'm hurt, I shut down, and it's not a good thing. It's not good. I know it's not good. I'm sorry. Zack, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. I know I need to do better with a lot of things, but it's just so hard with an empty cup. I'm gonna say it right there, and I know